All these girls in the club gotta have me one. If I see a bad bitch, I'ma snatch me one. All that money in my pocket, I'ma bag me one. Body yaddy yaddy, she a stallion. She got knees like Megan. That is from the great American composer Mouse on the Track. When I was young, I thought it was bounce on the track, and I make you bounce it back. That makes sense. Also, what it really is makes sense is mouse on the track, or mouse got the track that I make you bounce it back. And when I said I'm really young when I figured it out, I mean like 2 days ago. I always thought it was bounce on the track and I make you bounce it back. Turns out it's not that. And it's okay. It's okay that I'm just now learning what that is. It's okay if you just now learned what it was after all these years. You probably did not think what I just fucking thought, but you know, it's fine. We're all learning together. Here on Box of Chocolates, we're learning together. And I'm learning every day, all the time. So I need to start making these more regularly. Only because shit dies down. You know, like the shit that was hot last week is not hot this week. But I did want to talk about Derrick Jaxn. And if you don't know him, he's basically like, he's this black dude who basically is like a dating coach, also / life advice coach. Majority of his audience is pretty much women, and he has the image of like kind of talking down to guys. He's like or basically talking down to guys through women. Usually, like you don't. Like telling women like, oh, you know, you keep finding these guys that ain't shit and guys ain't shit, and, you know, to that effect, really. I mean, I'm sure if he were sitting next to me, he would say that's not at all what the message is, but that's how it's perceived. And, you know, unfortunately, perception is reality a lot of the time. I've had this told to me about me many times, you know, like whether you think it's true or not, this is how people see you. So, you know, do with that information what you will. So I just want to say Derrick Jaxn is unstoppable. I wrote like at the time, like I wrote all this shit down. He's unstoppable. It's the oldest trick in the book. Le book. Le book is French for the book. And, you know, it's so obvious what he's doing. He's seeming like the good guy. And here's what I'll say right off the bat. I'm not saying he's a bad guy necessarily. Now, women may think differently of him now that he's basically got caught kind of like doing some sideways shit in his marriage. I guess cheating, you know, necessarily. I mean, he's not necessarily specific on the details, but that's pretty much what it is. So he's basically seeming like the good guy. And I think it works with him because he's good looking. And he seems like his life is really put together, you know. And it works because he's preying on he's preyed on the hope of women. And you know, like the hope of women that like there's a guy out there who's like really good. They'll basically, you know, like, man, like look at this guy, you know. This tall, athletic looking dude who's handsome, he got a good hairline, he's together, he knows how to treat a woman. And I think that took him pretty far because obviously he pretty much got famous off of that identity. And I think he kind of knows it. I was listening to one of my favorite comedians, Tom Segura, and he was talking about how he thinks somebody's game is like the most interesting part of themselves, you know? Like for him, that's like so interesting. For him, that's just a very interesting thing. Like, because, you know, his theory is that to an extent, every man's personality is what they think works to get them laid. That's his theory. He thinks every man's personality is sort of built to what the man specifically thinks works for him to get women. And that makes a lot of sense. Now, I don't think... Now, from that position, like, let's pretend that I was looking for women. Like, I don't necessarily have the conscious thought, like, every day, like, I'm doing this because it's going to get me a woman. Like, it's not that really active in your brain. But, you know, the clothes that you wear, the things that you say, obviously, you kind of hope that that's going to play well to the female audience if you're a dude who's looking for chicks. And, my mom is calling me. Mom. I'm shooting the podcast. I'll talk to you later.
You're what?
I'm shooting the podcast.
Okay, bye.
All right, love you, bye. All right, I thought about declining, but well, I tried it. I try to answer when my mom calls me. I try to answer. I'm about 99% with it. I answer pretty much every time, unless something's really in the way. But what I was thinking was that, you know, Derrick Jaxn's language, like the things that he was saying, and this is obviously very specific. Hopefully I've painted a picture to where you kind of understand what I'm saying. The guy was seemingly on his high horse. That's how men saw him. Like, wow, dude, like you're kind of being a dick about it. Like by sort of calling us out if you felt attacked, I guess you should say. And I think it's just like the hypocrisy of it. It's like you don't really want to... It's corny. As a guy, like it's corny for a guy to step on another guy's toes. Like, as long as Derrick Jaxn is not coming at me specifically, like, it's not really my place to come at his game, you know, or be like, just talk shit to him for no reason. It's like, hey, man, like, that's how you get women. Like, that's how you get women. Like, I'm not really going to stand in your way if you're not doing anything illegal. You know what I'm saying? You're not drugging them, not touching them when they don't want you to touch them. You're not hitting them. Like, I'm not really going to tell you what to do on how to get women. Like, every guy has their own little things that they think work. I play the fucking... Look at me playing the fucking violin, dude. No, they fucking love when you play the violin because that means you got good hands and you can fucking finger the pussy and all this. Like, we know the type of shit that guys say. Like, oh, bro, when you work construction, like, they're all on you. When you're a cop and you got the badge, like, you have some droves of them wanting to fuck you. You get numbers all day, right? There's a strategy that every guy thinks that they got and they say it works, right? But I don't think his stuff doesn't work so well if he's ugly. Like, women don't really... I would disagree with the woman if she was right here right now about to disagree with me. That doesn't really play as well if you're ugly. If you're an ugly guy, or like if you're an undesirable guy is what I should say. That's which matters more than looks, you know, because women are very forgiving when it comes to looks a lot of the time. It doesn't play, though, as well if he's ugly or if he's undesirable, because women don't want to hear that from you, bro. And by from you, bro, I don't mean Derrick Jaxn. I mean a guy who doesn't have the charisma, is not as well spoken. They don't really want to hear that from, like, dorks, basically. Like, I'll be your savior. Like, they don't... That doesn't work well for the guy who's desperate for pussy, basically. You know, for lack of a better word. Like, that doesn't... really work with nerds. Like, women they don't want to hear that shit from some guy that they can so obviously have. Like, there's really... He has the formula down, basically. He has the formula. Derrick Jaxn has the formula. It works, and, you know, whatever. You know, you don't believe me. I was listening to The Breakfast Club, and Angela Yee said it herself. She said, you know, women love that kind of talk coming from a man. Like, wow, like that's really nice to hear. I remember being like 17 or something. I don't know how old I was. But I was with a group of friends, just a group of people, and one of my guy friends are like, "Hey man, like go get that girl. Like she wants you." And I wanted that girl that they said. The only thing that stopped me from doing that is there was a woman there who was like, I was like, oh no, I have a girlfriend, like, you know, trying to play the good guy, right? And she was just like, wow, finally a guy that doesn't want to cheat on his girlfriend. I was in my head, I was like, no, I absolutely want to cheat on her. In my head, I'm like, no, I absolutely would cheat on my girlfriend right now in the broom closet. If you walked away and that chick was down. Like, but obviously you can't say that. You can say that in front of your boys as like guy talk, haha, if you're doing, dark artist activity. Shout out to Theo Von. If you're doing dark artist stuff, yeah, with your boys, like that's cool to say. Like, damn, like I would. It can be corny if you're not careful with like that language. Like, because it does become corny. Like, oh yeah, I like to just say like, oh, I cheat on girls. Like that's corny to say, because now it's like you're bragging about something that you shouldn't. No guy says it like that. No person says it like that. No woman who has like 4 guys is like, I'm cheating on these guys. Ha ha ha. You just be like, oh, I'm talking to several. You put it in softer terms so it doesn't seem so dramatic. But shout out to Angela Yee for admitting the thing about Derrick Jaxn. Women love that kind of talk coming from a man. They do. They like it. That's what they want to hear. They especially want to hear that from a guy that they like Derrick Jaxn. He's, like I said, handsome, athletic-looking dude who's clean-cut, probably got some money, Some money has come along with the fame. I believe he's written books and stuff. I'm sure those have sold pretty well. With, women buying fucking looks and, how not to marry a jerk or whatever. Like, right? Like, they just read that shit and maybe you learn something if you're feeling unlucky in love. So all that footage of him just coming off of a high horse, and I mean, we all know how we feel about that on Box of Chocolates. On Box of Chocolates, if you're a listener of this podcast, we're not on our high horse. Why are we not on our high horse? Because we've all done things that are not very nice. That's just what it is. And also, here's what I'm going to say about... I'm not making fun of Derrick Jaxn. I'm really not making fun of him at all. Really, it's not about Derrick Jaxn. Although his story is like, it blew up obviously because he's such a fucking like, oh, this is like, he's like fucking Romeo, right? He's like a Romeo type of dude. Who, probably a lot of women were assuming under like, what a good man, all that shit. But it's impossible to maintain that as a guy, and guys knew it. The second I saw Derrick Jaxn and him talking all this shit, I will admit that I was like, dude, like, I was rubbed the wrong way by it. Like, fuck, like, what, man? Like, why are you being like that? Like, don't you know how it is? Like, he knows how it is. He knows how it is. That's why he got caught cheating and doing outside shit. Because he is how it is. I'm not... Now I'm pushing into the form of like, whoa, is Box of Chocolates leader Michael Diaz like this? No, I am not. But I have been like that. And most of the guys walking this earth have been like that. Just like, probably many women have been like that. Much guys do it on a crazier scale. They do it on a more ridiculous scale more often. Women do it too, but, guys just so obviously are insane. So, because they all want a fucking harem and everything. I understand. I guess I really don't even know where I'm going with this, but he did something that I consider to be very delicious. Delicioso. Num 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 num. Delicioso. I used to watch Dora with my little sister, and, she teaches you Spanish, and that's just a line that I always fucking remember. She went, num num num, deli fucking cioso. Okay. He said that he was like mad with God or something. And that has nothing, it honestly has nothing to do with it. And I don't believe him. I don't believe him. I think when people like that say, he said he was mad with God and just mad at the skies and, cursing on his roof. Fuck God, why would you do whatever he was doing to him at the time. I think when they think about God, they don't really mean it. Not that God is tangible, but they mean it in a very loose sort of way. What they really mean is like the luck of the universe. That's kind of what a lot of these people mean by God. I don't believe him that he thinks a conscious being out there had it out for him. I don't believe that. And he might say that he believes that, but like I said, on Box of Chocolates, we try to know people better than they know themselves. And it just seems fake to me. Like, but he did the thing that, a lot of people do, not guys, but he just went the God route. And you know what's really good about that is that when you bring in God to a situation, God is like, what's the word? Unflappable, infallible. We're going to look unflappable. Having or showing calmness in a crisis. No. Infallible, excuse me. Infallible, incapable of making mistakes or being wrong. When you introduce God into an argument, you become infallible. Because if you're trying to be the conduit for what's perceived as an infallible being, if you're like, well, I'm just bringing in God. God did it to me, is what he's saying. He was mad with God, so he cheated. I don't necessarily like. When I wish I could have had that excuse when I got caught, but I'm so very obviously not religious that excuse would not work for me. Oh, I was mad with God, and my girlfriend would be like, "Shut the fuck up." Like, you've said many times how you're like basically an atheist. I don't understand how you can now have that defense. But I mean, he put up that defense. I mean, and I don't really know. I don't really know. It seems like, I've been going through his comments and stuff and looking at the shit under his videos. I'm always on the forums. And, women are pretty unhappy with him, as they obviously get when you do them dirty. But, at the end of the day, it's only a big story because of him getting famous off of, pretending to be so perfect. And I'm sure he's had moments where he's like, well, I make mistakes. But that's not how he has come off in the past. He comes off as very I got this shit. This shit is easy. Oh, here's what I was going to say either. Here's another reason why I'm not really coming at Derrick Jaxn. It's corny to make fun of guys who cheat because, like I said, I kind of went over this a little, but you've all done it. I know some pretty fucking nerdy guys out there. You would never think, right? And for the people watching this, you kind of know what I'm talking about. You're like, oh, that guy is kind of he probably doesn't have a lot of women or anything. He's probably a one-woman guy. That. You learn that that's not true very soon. There are dorks out there who still cheat on their girlfriends and stuff. It's I'm not going to refer to it as a problem necessarily, but it's a very well documented male behavior pattern. And if you're making fun of him for cheating in this specific moment, yes, you can do it. But overall, that's not really something to make fun of him for, because most likely you've done it, And, it's a pretty small percentage of guys who haven't done it. And what I would say is, you just kind of have to go through that, I think, as a guy. You have to go through it. It's not fun, what are you supposed to do? Find the love of your life when you're 13 and stick. And I'm not saying you should cheat on women. What I'm saying is that you kind of go through a pattern of rough behavior before you get to something better, I guess. Or something that's, whatever, better for you, right? Maybe you like cheating on girls and that's your thing. In which case, I'm still, at this point of the story, not going to talk down about you. It ain't my mom. It ain't my sister. I'm not too concerned about it, you know? Like, I don't know. I mean, it was just good. It was a very finger-licking good story. Because it's like, really, how dare you, you know? Like, at the end of the day, how dare he do what he did? But now I could see him like writing a series of books about forgiveness, the road, healing together or whatever. He might have already written that book. I don't know, how to heal together after I fucked you over. Like, it's good. I mean, it's really fucking good. Like, he's one of the kingpins of the game, basically. Now, not so much, now that it's all out there, but he's nothing we haven't seen before. He's just obviously famous, right? I mean, I thought for the longest time Brad Pitt was cool as shit for leaving Jennifer Aniston and getting with Angelina Jolie. Like, he left one chick who, you know, at the time was, you know, considered up there, and then got with another that was also like, I would never advise any guy to do it. Like, I would never tell a guy, like, get a girlfriend and then cheat on her. Certainly the better option is to just be single. Just do that. But anyways, he just clearly fucking played on the hope of women, because we all know how they get with that stuff. And I realize that might sound very sexist to say. Well, don't you want a girl not to cheat on you? Yeah. Let's be serious. Let's be serious here. We know what I mean. Come on now. I also read this story about, this is completely different shit, about Kobe's mother-in-law trying to get money from Kobe's estate because one time he said, I'll take care of you. Like, that is crazy. So already, you know, she must not have a good relationship with her daughter, because she's like suing for the money, I guess. And her daughter's like, no. So already, you know, tension in the mother-daughter relationship. But that's really fucked up, you know? Like, what's that? Who said you weren't? Stay scheming. You wasn't with me shooting in the gym. That is, like, what did she do other than luckily luck into the role of mother-in-law to Kobe Bryant? That doesn't warrant her any money. Becoming somebody's mother-in-law does not warrant you any money. Oh, I became the father-in-law of Elon Musk. Now I have access to his billions, to his many, many millions. That is fucking weird. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And good on Kobe's wife for, you know, telling her no. Fuck no. What about the story entitles you to money? Even, how could you prove it? First of all, how could you prove Kobe said that to you? Like, so you went into the law office and you said, Kobe said he was gonna take care of me. And they're like, oh, so you're his wife or his mom or some, you know, directly? No, I'm his mother-in-law. Like, and obviously, you know, these lawyers, they don't give a shit, right? They're gonna be like, fuck it, like, let's give it a shot. The worst they could say is no, right? Like, that's pretty much like probably the attitude that they got about it. But obviously, Kobe's wife is not trying to hear any of that shit, and she's trying to shut that shit down. And good riddance, because you wasn't with me shooting in the gym. You wasn't with me shooting in the gym. Rick Ross. Oh, it's something. Listen to what I wrote down. How I have like these fucking weird comments. Cheaters always want to be all family friendly when they get caught. Not a single pic of their personal life until they get caught. Same with Jesus. Which, that's so obviously true. Because, I mean, yeah, they always kind of hide behind like, oh, I just want to keep things private. No. You're up to something. You're up to something. And it's so obvious. And then the second you get caught, if it's a girl you want to keep, that's all of a sudden when you become like this family man and, button down shirt and everything. I mean, and if you're trying to move past that behavior and you got a girl who's willing to forgive you, I mean, shit, good for you, man. Very good for you. So Easter happened this Thanksgiving. I'm going to edit that out. Easter happened this past weekend. And my girlfriend's aunt made this cobbler, peach cobbler. And you're probably like, oh, I've had peach cobbler before. I don't know that you have. I don't know that I had peach cobbler before today. This shit was so good. So fucking good. I mean, you think like, oh, maybe it might taste like a pie. It's nothing like a pie. I think that's kind of what I thought it was going to be. I'm like, oh yeah, I've had peach cobbler before. I don't know if I've ever had peach cobbler. If you would have asked me Friday, hey, you had peach cobbler before? I would have said, sure, many times. Dozens of times, right? Now I think the answer is I've only had peach cobbler Sunday. This shit was so good. And my girlfriend's aunt knew it. She fucking knew it. Like, she was doing that thing where, like, you degrade yourself because you know you're going to get a compliment as a follow-up. She was like, yeah, you like the peach cobbler? Like, she was, like, looking at me. She was like, you like it? No, I already knew the answer. She knew the fucking answer. I was like, yeah, like, it's fucking good. Like, she knew she was going to get a fucking compliment out of me. She knew it. She knew it. She knew it. She saw it in the look of my face. I'm over here. Like, she was probably, like, reading my body language because I was like, I get the peach cobbler and I take a, fucking bite number one. I, like, look at my girlfriend. I'm like, this is fucking good. And I was like, took another bite. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, it was so good. I was confused. I was like, this is confusing how she was able to make it this good. It's like the bread was, the bread was like moist and the peaches and like just the layer, it was just fucking good. And on the top was like a crusted, like a brown sugar crust kind of a thing going on. That was delicious. The whole thing was delicious from top to bottom. It was 10 out of 10. And then, again, her aunt goes, I think it's too sweet. Like, you should, like, the way she was smiling, like, it's too sweet. I think I made it too sweet. But, like, with the little devilish grin, like, I think it's too sweet. Right? And I'm just like, I'm like getting mad. I'm like, it's not too sweet. Why would you say that? I know why she would say it, because she knows how to make a 10 out of 10 peach cobbler. And she knows that I'm forced again to give her a compliment. I'm like, no, it's not too sweet. Like, it's perfect. Is that what you wanted to hear? Is that what you wanted to hear? That you made perfect peach cobbler because you did it. You did it. Now, what I will say is, so holding the title for best peach cobbler, girlfriend's aunt. They had greens there. The greens were good. But holding the title of best greens, my girlfriend's grandma. Those greens are fucking good. Like, greens are kind of just good, kind of by what they are, I guess. I think I've been fortunate enough to where I've never really had bad greens necessarily. But I've had some fucking good greens. My girlfriend's grandma, she's a weapon. She's a food cooking weapon. That Thanksgiving that we had, those greens are fucking delicious. So that's really what I do. Like, I kind of pin the two sides of the family against each other, and I'm like, who's better? Who can make the better food? Who's gonna wow me, right? Like I'm somebody to be wowed, but food is an item of pride. You don't want to bring anything somewhere that's bad. I'm not gonna bring you over and serve you some shit. I want you to be like, this is fucking good. My girlfriend said my steak was good one time. She took one bite. She took a bite. She was like, this steak is fucking good. I was like, it is. Thank you. I'm like, thank you. Thank you for saying that. I kind of knew it was good, but hearing her validation, like, I knew it was going to be good. But her verbal validation, like, the steak is fucking good, like, that made me cocky. That, I was like, now, like, all of a sudden, I'm a different person. Like, I don't know how to behave anymore. I'm just like, yeah, like, I mean, I know. Like, it's pretty good, right? Like, doesn't really get much better than that. Like, now I'm starting to, like, I went from, like, hopeful to, like, a cocky son of a bitch. Like, I went from, like, I hope she likes it, to now I'm like, and, like, my whole demeanor just kind of shifted. And my girl could see that in me. She's like, I'm not telling you shit anymore, basically. Like, my head got too big. I have those weird moments where it's like, I go from hopeful to, like, now you've boosted me up, and now my head cannot fit through the door. So right now, best cobbler, the aunt, best greens, the grandma, the one who let me cut the turkey. So right now she has a special place inside of here. I mean, you're gonna let me cut the turkey in a family I'm just meeting for the first time? That's huge. I don't know if I would have been okay with that. I probably would have, but I could see how somebody would be like, why is this stranger cutting grandma's turkey? And that person would be justified in their outrage. Like, if they're like, grandma, why are you letting fucking this guy cut the turkey? Like, if somebody would have had an outburst and stood up and like, I object, I would have been like, he has a case. She has a case in objecting. Why am I cutting the turkey? Because grandma said so. Because grandma said so. That's why I get to cut the turkey. Good times. What else is on the agenda? Oh, stop Asian hate. Stop Asian hate. And I'm serious about that, by the way. It's not a joke. When I first moved I never lived anywhere with Asians. Growing up in Indiana, from where I'm from, but also basically in the whole state, there's like not one Asian person. There might be like a half Mexican, half Filipino somewhere. Like one or two of them hanging around, but they just look Mexican, so we don't even know. We had some Mexicans that we thought were Japanese. But yeah, I never lived anywhere where there was Asians. I lived in Indiana. I grew up in Indiana. Spent some time in Oklahoma. Negative Asians there as well. Went to Spain for a little bit. No Asians. Everybody over there is Spanish. I had a lot of black people there too, actually. First time I ever really did any interactions with Asians was when I moved to Hawaii. Because that's all there is. And I'm a chameleon. Wherever I go, I become you. I'm you now. If my girlfriend takes me to where she's from, I'm from there now. I know all the local references. I know about the bakery. I want to know all the local shit. I'm from here now. Now I'm from Tampa. I'm from Tampa. I've always been from Tampa. I'm a diehard Buccaneers fan. Lightning. All that shit. But when I was in Hawaii, obviously I'm a chameleon, so I settled in. And like some of my best friends, all of them, there was a moment where all of my friends were Asian. I definitely had that moment. And it wasn't weird because I'm so easily like adaptable when it comes to that shit, pretty much. When I was in Oklahoma, I was a white guy who tried learning how to fucking line dance. Country shit. Baby, won't you roll my windows down and cruise? If you're a country fan, you know that song. You You know what song I'm referring to if you're a country fan. You've heard it on the radio. Who's that? Florida Georgia Line. That sounds right. Anyways, but one of my friends was Cambodian, and he was telling me about, and I was so ignorant. I was like asking him. I was like, "Hey, Cambodian guy from Carolina, from North Carolina. Why in Japan do they do this?" And he was actually like trying to answer me. But then I took a second. I was like, why would he know that? That's like asking me why in Mexico they do whatever they got going on over there. I probably won't have the answer for you. No, it's even worse than that. That's like asking me in Spain, why do they do the things they do? Like, I don't know. I have nothing to do like with that country or that people. I mean, I've been there, but I'm not well versed in their customs and shit. Anyways, skipping ahead. My friend he's Buddhist. And he's not like in the mountains, of Nepal Buddhist, but as far as being American Buddhist goes, I guess that's what he is. Anyways, he's Buddhist. That's what he identifies as. He tells me that I was asking about Buddha, and I wasn't really getting the concept of what he was saying until he put it like this. He was saying that if you follow the Eightfold Path, I believe is what it is, and I'm not going to research any of this. Maybe I'll come back and correct myself, but I'm pretty sure it's the Eightfold Path. So if you follow that, then you can be a Buddha. And I thought, how beautiful is that? I'm like, this guy believes in something that if you follow it to the T, and I guess that's what those guys, what the monks in the temple are trying to do. They're trying to get to that Buddha shit, that Eightfold Path, which is like an intense, I shouldn't say intense, but I guess I would call it a disciplined way of living. That through that, you can become a Buddha. And it was almost like I didn't believe him. I was like, I can become a Buddha. Or was that how I felt? I think I was more amazed. I was like, I was like, say it again. Like, that's what I'm raised. I'm like, say this. What did you say? He was like, you can become a Buddha. I was like, me, Michael Gerard Diaz, can become a Buddha. He was like, yes. I'm like, no fucking way. But he was like, yeah, man, you just gotta, it's hard, but, the belief is you follow this Eightfold Path, you reach fucking enlightenment, right? Boom, you are a Buddha. I thought Buddha was like God, like how it's one guy and you can never hope to be like what he is and all that shit. But no, they follow, like, there's something more practical about the Buddha thing. At least you can sort of aspire to become the thing that you're sort of looking up to. There is none of that in like Christianity. Like, you can't ever become God. Like that got Jesus killed. Happy Easter. Saying that you are basically God. Christianity, there's none of that shit. You said you're who? You said you're who? I'm gonna kill you now. Like that, like it's wartime when you say something like that. Like it's blasphemy. Like my grandma would come out of nowhere and hit me if I said something like that. Like, and what a fulfilling, like, that just sounds nice, doesn't it? And guess what? That's Asian stuff. You can be a Buddha. Buddhism. Like, that is fucking awesome. Obviously, all this racism shit sucks. People getting attacked. I'm not necessarily... I care. What I'm saying is that when something seems so obvious, it's almost like, why repeat it? Although I understand making a statement about something that's important. But, like, for me, race has been such a minor issue it's at times it's been an issue, but I sort of shed my skin of that when I left home. I said to myself, like, what am I going to be? Like this super Hispanic thing. Like, sort of the deal I made with myself is I'm going to be who I need to be. And that's not to say like I'm being fake or anything, but I need to be open, you know? I need to be open. And to me, race is a silly thing to be proud of. It's silly to hate race, just like it's silly to kind of be proud of your race. Like, you wouldn't celebrate being born on 8th Street necessarily. Or you shouldn't, is what I'm saying. You have no... It's like what Dr. King was saying, right? Like, you have no control over these things. You can't choose to be born a certain race, gender. You can't be born anywhere you're not from, you know? Like, the person in Mexico trying to get to America, they can't change that they were born in Mexico. Like, they were born in Mexico, and now you gotta make do. Not saying it's like a bad thing to be from there. I'm just saying, like, you have the cards that you were dealt. So I don't know, like, whenever I think about all this race shit, I'm just like, you know, nobody can control it. So, you know, why make such a big deal about it? And I'm sure that, you know, not that there's a lot of people listening, but I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who, if they heard that thought process, they would say, yeah, we wish all the races felt that way. So I understand that, but it just doesn't really make any sense to be super proud of it. I was never really that proud of my race. I was never that proud of being from Indiana. I never really had a big family. I never really had any major identity and now I'm kind of far off from my original point, but I never really had any identity that I really, really held on to. You know, I just sort of am who I am, and the things that are on paper are that way because somebody wanted to make it so. I don't necessarily care that I'm Hispanic or anything. I know that might sound bad to some people, but it doesn't sound bad to me because why should I care about the things that I can't control, right? Focus on the things you can control, like your effort and your attitude and shit like that. It's much more value if you focus on those things. I should be doing this fucking podcast every week. I think I haven't done it in 2 weeks. So, like, you see, like, there's much more fruitful things that I can be concerned about. You know, a lot of white people are not really concerned about race, you know. Hear me out. Anybody who's, you know, like, blown away by that statement. What I mean is there's a lot of white people out there who they don't even... I've talked to so many white people that they don't even fucking know what they are. They're like, I think I'm German and Irish mixed with French. Like, they honestly couldn't even fucking tell you. They're like, I don't know, I'm just a white person. Like, that should kind of be the attitude to me. Like, if you can think that way, if we could all sort of think that way about race, we would be much better off. But, you know, humans are too cliquey. If it wasn't race, it would just be something else. I guess that's another good point. If it wasn't race, it would just be another thing entirely that divided us. It would be class, obviously, where you're from, region, like, it would just be something else, you know? Like, I was listening to Trevor Noah, and he talked about how in South Africa, you know, how do you create a divide when everybody is fucking black? We're in Africa, right? Lots of black people. So he was like, the way the government did it was, I guess this was like apartheid shit, right? This is Trevor Noah. I haven't done any of this research myself, but I assume he's from there. He kind of knows some shit. He was like, basically, they broke it up by tribe. Now, who the they is, I mean, I couldn't really necessarily tell you that. The ruling white classes of South Africa, I don't know. I don't know the dynamics of that, but they have issues over tribes. You know, you're this, you're that, even though you all are the same. So I tried to get to that in my life. That's why I never really, like, latched on to I don't even really listen to Spanish music. I mean, what the fuck am I even talking about right now? Like, this has become kind of like, I am who I am. That's what I'm saying. You have to find that out by getting to know me. The things that you see should not weigh that much. They should not weigh that heavily. But that's just not really the human way, I guess. So, I guess it's just difficult to try to get to a point where you're going to stop Asian hate. Because if it's not, although I want that, it's just going to be something else. Because people only care about themselves. They only care about the things that they give a shit about, right? Like, I care about my girl, my sister, my mom, my step. Like, these are the only things that really concern me, you know? And the things that are outside of that, those aren't the only things that concern me. But, you know, like, I have my little fucking book. And if it's a category that's not necessarily in there, I'm not super concerned about it. Obviously, I'm concerned with racism because I don't want that shit to exist at all. I would like for everybody to get to where I am with it. And I don't really know, like, a lot of people say that, you know, you might create like a flavorless society if there's no like real culture or anything. I don't know that that's necessarily true. I think the flavor comes from whatever interests you. Should that be something cultural? That's fine, you know. Twitch, like, what is Twitch, right? Like, what if we have a culture based around Twitch? That's got nothing to do with race. Twitch, YouTube, like, podcasting, like, these are just things. Pretty deep down the rabbit hole of this shit now. I'm really getting into, like, some philosophical territory where it's like, do I even know what I'm saying anymore? That's kind of the area that we've entered. But I don't know. I just think it's important. It felt very natural to say, you know, the last 5 minutes of this episode. It just seems important. And that is a message that what I just said over the last 5 minutes about, you know, race not really mattering and the things that you can't control or what you should not really be judged by or judge people by. And I guess I'll just end it on that. Life is good right now. I don't have too much to add on top of it. Had some fire peach cobbler this weekend. Got some of it in the fridge. I'm going to hit beep on this fucking thing and then probably smash the peach cobbler. You know why? Because life is good. And I hope you take that with you. Take it.